So today, lesson 38B, finding the new price with a fractional discount. We're just extending some ideas of things that we've already talked about into the area of a fractional discount or markup. So let's go ahead and get started. A little background knowledge. This is now the third or the fourth time that we've reviewed this from 6th grade, where we worked a little bit with finding the percent of a number, which in terms of a math problem turns into 0.62 times 20. We've done that probably 100 times over the last 3 or 4 lessons, including homework. And today we extend this to the fractional part of a number. So the relationship between the two ideas is very simple. If we were asked to find 1/5 of a number, we could think of it in terms of the same thing if we knew what 1/5 was as a percent. So here's what we have right now. I guarantee you we have some people in here who know what 1/5 is as a percent without doing anything. And others of you probably have no clue what that might be. Well, it relies on your ability first, if you don't know what it is, to convert 1/5 to a decimal. So to turn a fraction into a decimal, we need to divide top number divided by bottom number. Those of you in my 6th period class, you guys still do this frequently. And so typically when we've done this, this is kind of how I recommended that you do it. 5 does not go into 1, but it goes into 10 twice. And once we finally have a remainder of 0, we can stop there. And so as a decimal, 1/5 is equal to 0.2. But I'm asking you what it is as a percent, and that's one of the reasons why we've talked about this idea right here, going back and forth between decimals and percents. So 0.2 should be 20%, moving that decimal twice. So 1/5 is the same thing as 0.2, which is also the same thing as 20%. They are all three equivalent to one another. And I've used that word equivalent thousands of times this entire school year. Okay? So that's how we go from a fraction to a percent if you don't know what that already might be. Okay? All right. So let's do a little bit of practice, and I guess I should have talked about this since we were asked a question here. 1/5 of 20, we converted down here, we converted 1/5 to 20% right there. So in essence, what we're finding really is 20% of 40, which we've been working on a lot lately, which in terms of a math problem would transition to 0.2 times 40. And 0.2 times 40 is 8, which means 1/5 of 40 is also 8. Okay? All right, so now let's do a little bit of practice. I would like all of you to convert 1/2 to a decimal and a percent. Very simple. If you don't know what that is in your head, we're going to divide top number divided by bottom number, and that ends up being 0.5, and 0.5 to a percent turns into 50%. All right, you've got 2 more in your notes that I would like you to go ahead and convert to a percent. Can all of you please go ahead and convert 2/5 to a percent? And also 3/4 to a percent. I'll give you about maybe 45 seconds to a minute to do that. Quickly. We already dealt with this one. 2/5 was the next one. If you don't know what that is as a percent in your head, then we're going to divide that out. 2 divided by 5 is, of course, 0.4. And that as a percent is 40%. So 2/5 is equivalent to 0.4, which is also equivalent to 40%. They all represent the same idea, the same value. 3/4, if you don't know what that is in your head, 3 divided by 4 is 0.75. That transitions to 75%. And that, of course, means that 3/4 is the same thing as 0.75, which is also the same thing or equivalent to 75%. All right. Here is the official number 1. A music store is having a sale on a CD. The regular price of the CD is $15. The CD is on sale for 1/4 off. What is the discount on the CD? So here's what you should be doing, in my opinion. We have got two very important things here. One is this 1/4 off. We need to think about what that is in terms of percent off. By the way, what is 1/4 as a percent? So some of you know what that is in your head, and some don't, right?
25?
It's 25%. So here's what you should do. As soon as you know what that is, then what you could do is you could sort of think of, well, I know that this means 25% off instead. Now you can see what I was talking about earlier. At this point, it's exactly the same thing that we have been working on. But we've got two types of problems. One where we're finding the new price, the sale price, the total price, or just a markup or a discount or something like that. My question to you is this. Are we finding a new price, yes or no?
No.
Wait, say that again?
No.
I heard one person say yes. Where in that problem does it say find the new price? It doesn't. Okay, if you haven't already figured it out, go ahead and figure it out now, please. All right, so we already talked about the one important thing, converting that 1/4 off to a percent, which is 25% off. The other issue is this. What are we being asked to find? We are only being asked to find the discount. So at this point you have to decide, is it 25% that we need or is it 75%? We're only finding the amount of the discount. Therefore, we're still dealing with 25%. So 1/4 of 15 is what we're trying to find, which is 25% of 15. And we've done that kind of problem over and over and over again. That means there is a $3.75 discount on the CD. That's how much that will be taken away from the $15. Okay? If some of you did it that way and some of you used a proportion, if you used a proportion, of course it would be 25 over 100 equals x over 15 or any variable over 15. And you're still going to get $3.75. Okay? Pay attention to what is being asked. Let's go to number 2. A department store buys a sweater for $23. They mark it up by 1/5 before selling it for a profit. What is the markup on the sweater? Go ahead and figure that out. And 1/5 as a percent is, of course, 20%. So we need to find 20% of 23, not 120%, which is what a couple of you did. We're only asked to find the markup. Not a new price, not a selling price, not a sales price, not a total price, or all of those different ways that we've talked about and how to phrase a new price. We're only finding the amount of the markup. And so that would give us a $4.60 markup on that sweater. If you did it with a proportion, of course, it would be 20 over 100 equals a variable over 23, which still gives you $4.60 for the markup. Let's take a look at number 3. Jennifer's dinner bill comes out to be $47. She wants to leave a tip that is 3/20 of the bill. What is the total amount she is spending? Figure it out, please. 3/5 as a percent, as we already talked about, is 15%. So we're essentially finding 15%. Hold on a second. We're trying to find the total amount. So that would be the long way. Okay, I see. That would be the long way of adding it back on. And I know a couple of you are still doing that, and that's fine. The faster way of doing it in one step is to add 15% on, since it's a tip, onto the 100% to make 115%. So you're really finding 115% of $47 because we are finding the total amount. So if you utilized a proportion, this is what you would do. If you did it the fastest way, 115% of $47, 1.15 times 47 is $54.05. All right, let's go to number 4. After a discount of 7/20, The price of a computer is $325. What was the price before the discount? Let's see how many of you read this one correctly. We have a 7/20%, or yes, percent, not 7/20%, 7/20 off of the price that transitions to 35% off. And so we need to figure out what amount is left for us to pay. That's 65%. So we have 65 over 100. This time, since we are trying to find the price before, that's the whole. The price after is the part, and we have to remember that. But either way, whether you do it with a proportion or with an equation, we will get $500. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to finish off these last few like we did yesterday. I want you to work with your shoulder partner on both number 5 and number 6. I'll check back with you in about 3 or 4 minutes. Go ahead and do both 5 and 6. Number 5, we have a shirt. It's on sale for 3/4 off. 3/4 is 75%. If you're going to do this the long way, that's where you would find 75% of 36. That's how much it's off. That's how much is taken away from the original price. So that leaves $9. The faster way is if it's 75% off, then you have to make sure that you figure out what's left. 75% from 100 is 25%. So that means there's 25% left for the cost. So as a proportion, it would look like this. Or the fastest way, which is the way I do these types of problems, 0.25 times 36. We've talked about all 3 of these ways. Some of you still use this way. Some of you are using proportions. And some of you are doing it the fastest way. It's your choice. You do it any way that you want to. All right, number 6. It costs a hobby store $12 to buy a model airplane. The store marks up the model. That's an indication right there. They're marking it up. You are increasing the price by, in this case, 40%. So the long way, find the 40% of the $12 and add it back on. So that gives us $16.80. If we're marking it up 40%, that means we're actually paying 140%. And as a proportion, it would look like this. Or the fastest way, 1.4 times 12. But regardless, we should get $16.80. Any questions about any of these methods? All right, quickly turn to your shoulder partner. What in the world what is the content objective for today?